What a long journey the Stranger Things cast of characters have been on. To demonstrate, just listen to the high timbre of these Season 1 voices from all the way back in 2016.
The Demogorgon!
We're deep shit.
It's been a long time since we first began, clearly, and we need to make note of how remarkably far the important characters of Stranger Things Season 5 have come. So, here's our recap of all the important things you need to know as we head into the final season of Stranger Things. Wait, now, before you ask, hey, where are all those other characters I want to hear about? Why aren't you following Alexi or the Hawkins High kids who all got killed? Well, we are focusing on the main characters of Season 5 and their long character journeys, and I'm not allowed to make this thing 2 hours long again, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time focusing on minor characters like Mike's dad or characters who are notably one-and-done dead like Barb. So you don't actually need to ask, what about Barb, in the comments. This doesn't concern Barb. Stop talking about Barb! We're going to give extra attention to Season 1 not just because it was a really, really long time ago, but because this is where most of the main cast's baselines get established. The very first scene is November 6th, 1983, at the Hawkins National Laboratory under the U.S. Department of Energy. Yep, that means the kids would be well over 50 in the present day. But our first scene centralizes not only the threat posed by the Upside Down, but 11's mysterious connection to it. The four main boys, Will, Mike, Dustin, and Lucas, open playing D&D with all the exuberance of a modern-day Critical Role finale. This is an extremely strong opening scene that establishes the core dynamic. Mike dramatically DMs a heightened confrontation with the Demogorgon, a classic D&D enemy.
Oh Jesus, we're so screwed if it's the Demogorgon.
It's not the Demogorgon!
Dustin expresses fear and relies on defense. Lucas expresses skepticism and pushes for offensive action. And Will is naively honest, but they're all best buddies who love each other in, a cool, tough way.
Fireball! Oh, where'd it go? Where is he?
Later, all but Mike ride home on their bikes talking about X-Men comics. It's pretty idyllic and clearly where the heart and joy of the show centers: childhood friendship. Oh, and nostalgia. Will splits off on his own into Hawkins lab property. He sees a scary, spindly figure and falls off his bike, but it pursues him home, where he hides out in the shed. He disappears as a light bulb goes out, and everyone fears the worst. Joyce hunts frantically, Jonathan blames himself, and his friends try their best to find him.
You ever think Will went missing because he ran into something bad?
Mike is the most determined and invested in finding Will after he disappears, and immediately strongly attaches to 11 and wants to help her when she shows up. He promises again and again that his mom will help her, even though 11 chooses to go a different way at every turn. Also, he clearly likes her in an 11-year-old kind of way.
Pretty. Really pretty.
While all the boys get bullied at school and are equally interested in science class, Dustin and Lucas get somewhat less character development. Dustin has a little crush on Nancy and is more open to fantastical possibility, while Lucas is more opposed to ideas of the supernatural and went on his own to Hawkins' lab to disprove those notions, which he failed. While Mike strongly wanted 11 to help them find Will, Lucas was very skeptical of harboring some weird girl, and Dustin was more of an intermediary between the two, but eventually all three remaining boys united when faced with overwhelming evidence. Will, however, is taken to the Upside Down in Episode 1, and what we learn about him is mainly through flashbacks from his mom Joyce and older brother Jonathan.
You like the Clash? For real?
For real.
Season 1 establishes strong use of flashbacks to explain trauma, and it's used often in later seasons, but most of all in this one. We learn that Will is a sweet kid, smart, artistic, sensitive, and his mom and brother have done their best to shelter him from an acrimonious divorce, and that he really loves his fellow misfit friends. Joyce Byers is a single mom who works too hard, who loves her kids and never stops. Yeah, but really. She snaps into overdrive when Will disappears and exhausts every resource and idea she has trying to find him, connecting with her old friend Jim Hopper in the process.
I've been waiting 6 hours.
Yeah, I know. I came as soon as I could.
Jonathan is a quiet loner at school, interested in photography, and he cares very much for Will and feels responsible for losing him. He and Nancy, Mike's older sister, who is a bit of a brat and overachiever, also have a soft spot for each other. This doesn't go unnoticed by Nancy's boyfriend, Steve. Accurately described as a douchebag by the kids, Steve spends a lot of time listening to his jerk-ass friend's ideas to antagonize Jonathan and Nancy until eventually telling them off, defending the two from a Demogorgon and making amends. Also, Barb is there, until she isn't. Hopper starts in what in retrospect was clearly a depressed state following the death of his daughter and dissolution of his marriage. Hopper becomes reinvigorated and reignites a bond with Joyce while unraveling the conspiracy at Hawkins' lab with her.
This whole time you were right.
And helping her save the real Will inside the Upside Down. He ends the season leaving a small token for inarguably the most central character, 11. 11 is a harder character to summarize since her backstory begins before season 1 and gets told throughout later seasons, but why wait? Let's just go for it.
Go.
Born Jane Ives, 11's mother Terry was experimented on in the MK Ultra program by Dr. Brenner, resulting in Jane developing psychokinetic powers. Brenner kidnapped, renamed, and raised her in a secret lab with other competitive, traumatized, superpowered children. What could be the harm there? On November 6, 1983, the opening of the series, Brenner and company had 11 use her powers to make contact with another dimension, which accidentally left a gate open in the lab, causing the upside-down creatures to begin pouring out into Hawkins. In the confusion, she escaped, ate hamburgers, hid out with the 3 Hawkins boys, became good friends with them, and seemingly sacrificed herself to save them from a Demogorgon. Everyone else had a nice Christmas, and everything was mostly fine. It's nearly a year after season 1, and Will still has a connection to the Upside Down and attends not at all sketchy therapy from Dr. Owens, Dr. Brenner's replacement at Hawkins Labs. Will sees a new huge threat from the other dimension. They call it the Mind Flayer. Once again a reference to Dungeons & Dragons, and once again Will conks out for most of the season when the Mind Flayer possesses him.
He made me do it.
The Upside Down makes a comeback in a big way, and eventually Joyce, Jonathan, and Nancy force the entity out of Will, and 11 once again closes the gate between dimensions to fully cut it off. Oh yeah, speaking of, to no one's surprise, 11 did not die when she vanished in the season 1 finale. She was secretly taken in by Hopper, who began raising her as a daughter, and it's pretty sweet, but for all the goo and death this season, she spends a lot of time away from everyone else, having snuck out to rediscover her roots with a gang of kids who we oddly never hear from again. Hopper officially adopts 11 as Jane Hopper by the finale, and they both seem to heal emotionally. Mike spends the season searching for 11 and is overjoyed when she finally returns to the group.
I never gave up on you.
Joyce dates a nice man with the same name as a character from The Sims, but we won't get into him because I was told to only recap characters that make it to season 5 and... New characters arrive, including siblings Maxine and Billy, who have a dysfunctional relationship. Max joins the main kid gang and becomes an essential part almost immediately.
Oh god, he's slimy!
Lucas and Dustin both express interest in her, but Lucas wins between the two. No worries, Dustin starts a new, enduring friendship this season. No, not the upside-down demodog that ate his cat. Steve gets a signature weapon and loses Nancy, but goes from douchebag to world's best babysitter, so it's not all bad for him. There's room for only one douchebag anyway. Jonathan and Nancy pretend they're just friends.
No, I mean, we're just friends.
Friends.
Until they get together for real. After 11 cuts off the gate to the Upside Down, all the demodogs die and everyone has a nice time at the school dance, and no alternate universe entity wants revenge. Psych, of course the Mind Flayer wants revenge. But let's set the scene first. It's summer 1985, and Lucas and Max are a couple, as are 11 and Mike. The kid gang is solidly having a pretty nice time being kids for once, in no small part because the mall is now open. The mall has it all. It's a fun place to hang out and strangle small businesses and people alike. But again, I'm jumping ahead. The mall is probably the most visually interesting set piece in the entire show and marks a significant change not just in 1980s America, but in the kids' growth into young teenagers. This season is about growing pains and growing relationships. And monsters. Will wants to stay in adolescence playing D&D all night with his buddies, and his buddies all want to grow up and date. Nancy is officially dating Will's brother Jonathan, Dustin has a girlfriend from science camp, and even Mike's mom might be an item with a teenager. Ew. Also, Joyce and Hopper like each other romantically now. Yay, mom and dad are getting together. But really, Joyce has a hard time getting over her boyfriend Bob's death, which keeps the burn slow. Protective dad Hopper wants to keep 11 safe from all danger, both in paranormal and boy forms. He has a hard time with the idea of her growing up. Meanwhile, Murray, who was a conspiracy theorist introduced in Season 2, turns out to be right about one thing. There is a Soviet conspiracy about town, and yes, it's about reopening the upside-down gate 11 closed last season and creating a door between worlds for fun and profit. They even have an entire secret base built under that nice new mall where Steve works with the newest member of the teen gang, Robin.
How many children are you friends with?
Robin and Steve are besties, but that doesn't mean Steve and Dustin aren't also besties, and they recruit Lucas' younger sister, Erica, to help uncover the Soviet conspiracy. Robin comes out to Steve, which reaffirms their only friends-ship. At the same time, the Mind Flayer is also back and chooses to attach itself not to Will, but Max's maniacal brother, Billy. Nancy and Jonathan uncover that the Mind Flayer's goal this season is pretty much to draw humans in, liquefy them into gooey flesh, and use said gooey flesh to construct its own hive mind body at, you guessed it, the mall. 11 realizes that once again she is the only one who can save the world. Unfortunately, in a crucial point in the battle, she also realizes her powers are gone. The main cast squads up to fight anyway, with Hopper, Joyce, and Murray infiltrating the Russian base, and the kids fighting the Mind Flayer with fireworks.
Play this, you ugly piece of shit!
Joyce is forced to vaporize Hopper in order to close the gate again, and he is gone without a trace. A powerless 11 uses emotion to actually free Billy from the influence of the Flayer, at which point he chooses to sacrifice himself to stop it. As Joyce closes the gate, the connection is broken, and the hive mind Flayer goo form dies for real. This is all great, but of course everyone is sad about Hopper. 3 months later, Joyce, Jonathan, Will, and 11 decide to finally move away from Hawkins, which is what I would have done the first time an insane paranormal thing happened. Meanwhile, in Russia, Hopper lives. He was transported, not vaporized, but he's trapped in a Soviet camp where they experiment on upside-down creatures. He communicates however obliquely he can to Joyce, and since we learned in Season 1 that Joyce is really good at decoding weird, convoluted messages from her loved ones trapped far away, she and Murray succeed in an extremely unlikely rescue mission. While this happens, the younger kid group starts high school, but with the Byers family moved away to California, they're separated. 11's background as an unsocialized kid who solved her problems with violence doesn't set her up for success in public school, especially because she's now powerless and without Hopper, Mike, Max, and her support system. Will is also feeling isolated, and it is heavily implied he is dealing with the realization that he is gay, which would have been very difficult and emotional for him. Jonathan becomes a hilarious stoner to deal with things, so...
What's going on?
Your mom's going to Alaska.
You're going to Alaska?
Back in Hawkins, the other kids are playing D&D again with a new nonconformist DM, Eddie, and a new group name, the Hellfire Club.
You want something, freak?
Lucas is now a jock on the varsity Satanic Panic-led basketball team, which becomes a season-long issue. Max is having major issues processing her brother's untimely death and her broken family, and has also isolated herself. Lucas knows something is wrong and wants to help her even though they've broken up, and she resists. Growing up, growing apart, and dealing with pain are running themes this season.
Yeah, I know.
After kids at school are mysteriously killed and the Hellfire Club starts to take heat, the Hawkins kids get the Hawkins young adults to help them out. What is this dark spellcaster targeting kids with trauma? It's definitely from the Upside Down, so they give it a D&D name, Vecna. And of course, Vecna wants Max due to her new dark emotions. Max is nearly killed by Vecna, but literally runs from despair thanks to the needle drop of 2022. 11 is scooped up by Owens and Brenner to try and get her powers back, and in so doing, we learn more about her traumatic past in the school for psychic violent children. She knew the person who would become Vecna, and they were friends in the school as 11 and 1. After she freed him from his inhibitor chip, he slaughtered all the other children, and she banished him to the Upside Down, where he became powerful and twisted. More twisted. He's Vecna. 11 gets her powers back, reunites with Mike and the rescue team, and they focus in to save Max. Nancy, Steve, Robin, and Eddie have also figured out Vecna's identity while on their own adventure and come to realize Vecna's goal: turn the world into the Upside Down, and he only needs to kill Max to complete his designs. Also, he was the one who possessed the Mind Flayer and had been the big bad this whole time. Despite being thousands of physical miles away, 11 enters Max's psyche to fight Vecna and save her. While things look bleak, Mike emboldens 11 with a pep talk, and the adults in Russia and young adults in Hawkins hurt the Upside Down hive mind as much as possible to give her an edge. Still, Max dies in Lucas's arms, causing portals to the Upside Down to erupt in Hawkins, though actually her heart restarts and she goes into a coma thanks to 11 using their friendship memories to mentally intervene. Vecna is still alive. The entire remaining cast returns, and everyone who is able reunites in Hawkins. Jonathan and Nancy are maybe not okay, and 11 is upset Max is unfindable in her psychic plane. Max! However, she finally reunites with her dad Hopper, overjoyed to have him back. Everyone thinks what happened was a natural disaster, but the Upside Down is definitely in and infecting the main dimension now, setting up a final battle. Are they ready? Are 11's powers enough? Is anyone primed for one final heroic sacrifice? Will Hopper and Joyce get to go out on just one nice date? It will all be revealed in Stranger Things' final chapter. I'm Kim Horcher. Thank you so much for coming along this journey with me. For more of the best entertainment and games coverage, you're already in the best spot, IGN.